you just said. So I'm Sam, I'm the Programme Officer for the Humberside Discovery Programme. So I'm going to really briefly and quickly run you through the area that this covers, and then go into one of the sites that I'm going to be looking at in April this year, and I'll briefly run through a couple of the others that will be coming over the next year, but not in too much detail in this short amount of time. For those of you from further afield, or from down further south, the region that I'm covering covers from Flamborough Head in the north, right the way down through the Lincolnshire Marshes, and off the bottom of this page now, to Skegness for the people that know that. Now, one of the interesting things about this is we have the massively eroding East Yorkshire coastline, as most of you will know from various press releases, up to 10 metres a year, causing massive amounts of erosion, but you've also got lots of accretion in the southern part of this region, so you've got a nice interplay between what we see as climate change and affecting heritage within the area. What this programme has actually driven, for maybe more on a personal level anyway, it's given me an opportunity to look at archaeology I wasn't familiar with before, and specifically looking at the Inner Humber, which is what I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on today. And for those who are aware of the RCZAs, which have been mentioned a little bit before today, so the Rapid Coastal Zone Assessments, the Inner Humber is actually the last one to be commissioned. It's underway now. It will be finished by the end of 2020, maybe 2021. So it's actually a good time to be looking at these areas within the UK, because it's all updating various different data sets. Over the last year then, I've been looking at a number of these sites. So these the sites that I've picked out here today are ones that I've already started to do bits of background research and occasional bits of actual survey work. One being the Hull Riverside area. One of the, so going back to that idea of the Inner Humber, I'll go back to Hull in a second, is this area around Barton Foreshore that I've been developing with help from a number of connections in Barton, including Richard, who's in the audience, and I've got an acknowledgement slide at the end as well, just to mention a few others. And this is really coming, again, so to mention it back into the idea of what we're looking at today, intrigue and opportunity. It's an intrigue from local people, such as Richard and the Barton History Group, of this interest in brick and tile working in the area. And that's really what we're going to start to look at in this particular research development. One of the things, just to broadly highlight, and again coming back to this idea of this opportunity and intrigue within the Inner Humber and the people that are associated with this project, is I went into Hull and I did a survey project back in October, November time. It was literally the last day in October, first day in November. And you would think this inner city area would be well surveyed, well understood. And it is to a certain extent, but within our data, so going to our online map, we have, this is what it looked like before I went to the event, and you've got lots of what we knew were already gaps in that knowledge, in our understanding of this small area. And what we did after just a day's worth of work is add all of these extra green dots, and all of the yellow dots as well have been updated with new HER data essentially. So it just gives a very quick and interesting example of how a lot of this opportunity that the work that's being done on the Inner Humber is allowing us to just add a little bit more to that understanding of the heritage background. And this is what I hope to do a lot more on the Barton side of things. So unfortunately, I'm now going to have to show some more concrete. It's not too much, not as much as Chris might like, but so this is Foster's Wharf. And it is essentially directly tied into brick and tile production and trade within the Humber and outside of the Humber. And it seems to be connected with this Spencer's Yard, which is just further across the other side of this jetty. So this being the concrete jetty on the side there. And this dates back for at least, I mean, this concrete isn't, but dates back to at least 1886, which I'll show the map of in a second. And almost certainly earlier. We've got documentary evidence of it being earlier than that. Now, what's interesting about the site is we've also got a couple of hulks, metal hulks, that are associated, and this is why we're going to go and give those a survey. And we've got lots of local knowledge of these places being in existence on an oral history basis from the 1950s onwards, and probably earlier. So it's really trying to bring all of that together into a better understanding of this area in the sense of brick and tile production. Now, just to show, so I was mentioning the RCZA that's coming up at the moment. All these new dots here are from the current, just submitted RCZA from the mapping work that they've started to do this year. So, I mean, it adds those hulks that went on there before, so the ones I've already just shown you. Foster's Wharf, I've actually added myself. In the HER, it's just called the dock. And then you've got a number of coastal defence areas as well. Interestingly, this one, potentially a fish trap, that I need to go and have a quick look at as well. But, well, if I show you I'll show you the LiDAR in a second. Actually, this is well into the intertidal mud now, so if it is there, it'll be protected, but it's likely that it's probably gone. But just to show you these two maps, flick between the two, so that's 1929 and that's 1932-33, and you can see the massive creation of this dock in that period. And what's interesting with this, from a wider perspective, looking at the Barton foreshore and the South Humberside in general, is that the brick and tile works are in their biggest pomp about 100 years before this change here. So something's going on at this point where this dock becomes very big 100 years after the really big impulse in brick and tile production. And for more of for people in the room here, it's interesting because we have records of this dock producing brick and tile that's coming into London at that time, in that kind of early 30s version. So there's a nice connection with the wider British landscape and British trade and production of these particular sites. So I've kind of taken this out of more of a Barton foreshore area, and there's lots of things that we can add on to just this, not just this site that was surveyed in April, but also start to add on different bits and pieces. So this is a hulk further down called the Mary Maria. We've got various bits and pieces of sluice and drainage works within the area. There's lots of evidence for these brick and tile works on the foreshore that are being slowly eroded or slowly accreted and damaged through various other bits. And this is a site of, that I'm quite interested in as well. This is the Adamant Cement Works at Chowderness, or not far from Chowderness. And this was surveyed around about 10 to 15 years ago. So when I get a chance to go back, we'll be able to compare it with that data. So what it doesn't show you here is actually a lot of it is in the intertidal zone. I'll be able to pair it with that 15-year-old data and see if there is a lot of movement within the inner Humber, and really tie back into that RCZA that's coming out into the next year or so. So just a few simple research aims based on that. One of the biggest ones to highlight is that how at risk is the remains in this inner Humber area, something that people are obviously questioning, but is part of the forefront of where this RCZA is going at the moment. And then how does this site fit into the wider coastal industry of Lincolnshire and Barton in general, and potentially then fitting back into a number of the other discovery programmes that we've got, where we've got trade potentially in and out of the Humber around the country. So just a small plug for those who may be interested. So the date will be the 24th to 26th of April. We're doing this survey over that weekend, looking at Barton and Foster's Wharf itself, but doing wider events around it as well, so guided walks and LTTs with Chris that he'll discuss a little bit more in a second. And just very briefly, just a few acknowledgements there, including Richard, who's up at the top, for people. And this is actually, the bottom one is where we're going to run this event from in April, so I just wanted to acknowledge those guys as well. And I'll leave you with Chris.